Welcome to the Mr. Beacon podcast. Got a very timely show this week. I'm interviewing Jason Wu, who is the CEO and co-founder of InPlay. InPlay are a company that works behind the scenes. They're a chip maker, relatively small, but extremely influential. So in the same way as they're behind the scenes for other vendors, we're going to be talking to the person that's behind that company that is driving products from companies like Menu. So they enable low-cost beacons. The $1 Bluetooth beacon is a reality. You can go to Menu's website, you can order it, but you can also get it from companies like Trackonomy, who have customers such as UPS and Delta. And Trackonomy just announced that they are buying Jason's company, InPlay. So when I spoke to Jason after the show, he indicated that something might be happening. And so this is an incredibly timely opportunity to get to understand this very small, influential company that's behind dozens of products that are disrupting IoT, with a beacon or a tag that doesn't require energizing infrastructure, and it doesn't require any other source of energy. So they're incredibly low power consuming chips, and so they can be used for energy harvesting applications. But generally, they're part of these printed battery kind of devices that are the size of a business card. And it's an interesting discussion. If you stay to the end, then you'll hear a bit about how his company pivoted from their original games play. So before we get into that, I do want to talk a bit about a really big announcement from Qualcomm that came out about 10 days ago, earlier this month. It was the Dragonwing Q6690. So this is a lot more interesting product than it sounds. It's the product that is enabling RFID to come to phones. And this is something that, the various RFID promoters have been talking about, but Qualcomm have not said anything up until now. And they dropped this huge announcement that is potentially very disruptive. I just want to take a couple of minutes to talk a bit about what it is and what it isn't. And the first thing to say is the ability to integrate RFID into a smartphone or some kind of industrial phone using a chip that makes it cheap and easy and performance is very significant. And for the RFID industry, this is like a dream come true. This was part of the original vision decades ago when RFID and IoT were terms that were coined together. And it's part of the dream that's been elusive. I think it's definitely held the industry back. And the fact that it's here is a huge boost, not just for RFID, but for auto identification, by making it possible to scan things from a device that is already in people's pockets, that's been amortized, is very significant. But I think it's really, really important not to get intoxicated by the hype. This is probably not the entire dream come true that a lot of people are promoting it as. Having this chip is a really important piece of the puzzle. And if you read the announcement, then we're not just talking about phones here. So one of the really notable endorsers for this announcement was Luxottica, who are the company that makes probably 80% of the high-end eyewear that we wear. So if you're wearing almost any branded eyeglass, whether it's Ralph Lauren or Ray-Bans or Oakley's, it's made by Luxottica. And they were the company behind Google Glasses, and they're the company behind Meta's latest glasses that were launched recently in a rather trouble-prone event where half the demos didn't work. But I'm actually enormously excited and empathetic for demos that are problematic. It's just the nature of the beast. The important thing is that Luxottica are the go-to entity for bringing IoT into eyewear, which is a huge unlock. So that's probably the thing that goes beyond the original dream. But I do want to look and double click on RFID in phones. And, what we're seeing is Zebra are adopting it. So Zebra are the company behind a lot of the handhelds that you'll see in stores, that you'll see UPS drivers using. So this is going to bring down the cost of and increase the integration, make better products. But what we're not hearing is anything from Apple or from Google. Now, I'm not saying that won't happen, but what I am saying is each of them has their own Byzantine decision-making. And so until not just one of them, but both of them announces that they're going to be supporting this chip, then this will not be viable for mass market consumer applications. For any application developer to launch an app that just works on one phone is really problematic. You have to have iPhone for the US market, and you have to have Android for the rest of the world. So that's one note of caution. The other note of caution is just putting RFID in a phone is not a binary on-off switch. There's an awful lot of gray area that needs to be filled in before this is really going to scale to its full potential. And that gray area could be filled in, but there's reasons to believe that it won't be. And, we just need to look at the very piecemeal support that NFC got. NFC came to the iPhone, and there was enormous excitement, but it was crippled by the operating system. And it's been used now extensively for payments, which Apple decided was something they wanted to support. But when's the last time you saw someone tapping a poster in the United States with their iPhone? It just doesn't happen because they didn't provide the APIs that supported it in a scalable way because it wasn't part of their vision. And visions tend to get shot down. There's a massive obstacle course and all sorts of things that need to line up before you get the kind of support that you would need. What kind of support is that? Well, one of the key things that I don't think will ever come to RFID in the phone is background scanning. The real dream is you're carrying your phone around and it's just scanning the things that are around you without you having to bring phone out and start an application. And that's what Bluetooth has. And that's a very unique thing that I don't think will ever be supplanted by RFID. Why is that? Because it costs battery. When you start listening for devices in the background, that consumes battery, and battery consumption is a massive liability for anyone that wants to sell phones, which is the primary business of Apple and Google. So the likelihood that they're going to have background scanning for RFID is very low. And the only reason they gave it to Bluetooth was not for people like me that are writing Bluetooth applications as a way of earning a living. They do it because it's necessary for pairing with printers and cars and other devices. That pairing function that Bluetooth has a lock-in is not going to be replaced by RFID. So the other thing that I think is important to understand is, the consumer device market is not just phones anymore. It's watches, it's smart speakers, it's appliances. And RFID has been trying to get into those devices for decades, and it hasn't succeeded. Now, I think this is a useful step forward, and so their chance of getting there is stronger. But at the same time, the ambient IoT standards, the Bluetooth, the Wi-Fi, the cellular, the radios that are already around us they have that established. And so they're moving to auto ID from this position of being embedded into the devices that surround us. And ambient IoT is a lot of things. It's connecting to the things that are around us, the food, the medicine, the clothing, the parts, the tools, and it's using the energy that surrounds us, and it's using the radios that surround us to achieve those things. And RFID, I think, deserves enormous credit for establishing the original vision, and it has a very strong hold in certain applications, especially now that Walmart has it at item level in nearly all of their products. That's something that is formidable. So I am not saying that this is a non-event. It's a huge event. It will be good for the whole category of IoT. It will be good for auto ID. It will be good for getting more things automated. It'll just make sense to automate identification, which is going to be good for improving quality, reducing cost. So big day for Qualcomm, big day for the RFID industry, but it's important to keep these things in perspective and know what you're getting and know what you're not getting. And that's really why I was so excited to speak to Jason. This amazing product that InPlay have got has opened up lots of things that are new, that are filling out the IoT category and applications that are possible. But I think it's interesting to talk to the person behind it, and it's interesting to know what can be done, what can't be done. And I hope that's what you get from this interview. Jason, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. I've been following what your company's been doing for years now, and there aren't many companies that get to build a category, and I really feel like you have. This low cost, the $1 Bluetooth beacon, the $2 Bluetooth beacon, that wasn't really a thing, and your company as a semiconductor company, you've kind of enabled that. You've enabled a lot of different companies to produce solutions, so thanks very much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for offering me this opportunity. Yeah.
So Jason, let's kick the conversation off. Can you just explain a bit about who InPlay are and what your products are?
Yeah, InPlay is a fabless semiconductor company based in Southern California. Right, we start a business based on the idea we're gonna solve this network latency issue people experiencing the VR gaming settings. Right, we start from there. We develop a novel communication protocol. But over the years, this VR, the market is not like developed as we expected, right? Then we have to pivot our technology direction from one to the. We try to address a much wider market, which is generic, I would say, IoT market. So we try to identify some new market, not like simply just repeat what the other people did. As a startup, you have to be innovative enough and try to solve real pain from the customers, right? So that's when we visit back in 2019. I think I visited the RFID show, one of the RFID so-called RFID Journal Live. That's when I met a lot of customers, and we discussed about this potential of using Bluetooth technology to do the tracking.
So you went to, was this RFID Journal Live that you went to? Where you
RFID Journal Live.
Right,
yeah. That's the first time ever I got to know those customers and understand that the Bluetooth actually has already been adopted. So that's the reason, right? So there is a lot of Bluetooth technology being used for that space for all different type of use case, but in a very small volume. Right, so but they love it, right? So whoever adopt the Bluetooth tracking technology, they love the technology, but the concern why it's not really take off is because of the price is too high compared to RFID, right? That's when I've been thinking there might be a potential, right? So to grow, if we can solve this customer's pain point, which is the cost.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But in order to solve the cost problem, you have to think. I would say the cost is, it consists of multiple factors. Right. It's chip size, die size is one thing, and this is about how easy your technology being used by your customers is another thing. So from multiple different dimensions. We need to think about how to define a new product just to be able to address multiple challenges in order to make this successful product or technology to be adopted by this RFID industry, right? So that's how we came up with this nanobeacon technology, right? I think the uniqueness about this technology is, first of all, we want to make it state machine based, which is we can eventually don't require programming at all, right? So it's basically this is a config to use Bluetooth. This is first time ever we can create a Bluetooth device which we don't require software programmer in the project, right? So we're joking with our customers, right? They say you only require a product manager to finish project as well, hardware engineer, right? So that you don't really need to hire a former programmer to complete it, right? That's one of the big investment actually, especially from RFID industry perspective. So very few of them have the team or expertise who can truly understand how this Bluetooth works.
So you went to RFID Journal Live and you saw that there was a gap in the market. People like Bluetooth, but they wanted it closer to the costs of what they were seeing in RFID. And sounds like you looked at the current landscape and you saw the opportunity to kind of go from a CPU orientated, very kind of powerful chip to something that was simpler, that was a state machine and you can reduce the cost by, because the human cost, because you're doing less programming, you've kind of done that. You're making the chip smaller, so you're reducing the cost because you've got a fixed price of a wafer. And then the size of your chip basically dictates how you amortize the fixed cost of the silicon wafer, and the smaller the chip, the lower the cost. So you kind of got that. What made you decide to go to RFID Journal in the first place? You were in the gaming business. Doesn't seem obvious that you would go to RFID Journal Live.
Yeah, back then, as I explained, we need to pivot our technology to other directions, right? So the very first thing I thought about is audio, right? So it's maybe it's still like related to the gaming space, but I think that's a very very crowded space. We need to enter some like new space which we see the high potential growth, but not yet become like too crowded, right? So it's I just look at which spaces makes sense for us to do some innovation there. I did a lot of research work, of course, and I see the IoT. In terms of IoT, we try to address IoT, but we've been talking about IoT for over 20 years. But many IoT projects in POC, right? So it's all small scale deployment, and there is a lot of but in the IoT space there is one successful technology, right, which is RFID, right? So that's the most successful IoT project, I would say, right? So it's last year there should be like 45, I heard the number 45 billion RFID labels being deployed, right? So
yeah,
that's
every year it's that's a lot.
Yeah, but they solve some of the problem, right? So, but we still see RFID is one type of IoT device. So that's made me thinking, hey, this is like in terms of the success of the IoT story, RFID is so far the most successful technology deployed there. But are they perfect? No, there is something more can be added to the ecosystem. Yes.
Yeah.
That's when I feel like there could be something we can learn from the RFID, but we can also need to talk to the customer to understand what the pain point for them not to signing up for the Bluetooth. So that's the reason we need to go to the trade show to talk to customers, understand their pain point, and to collect some feedback before we start the project.
Interesting. And so what was you obviously got the message about cost. And I saw when you first announced your product, which I can't remember, like 7 years ago or something like that, the Nano Beacon product that is, which is now blossomed. You did it in terms of comparing it to the active RFID market, and it is a radio frequency identifier, of course. But what were the use cases and the applications that you had in mind after coming back from that conference? What was it that you were targeting?
Initially, we really want to targeting the sensor, right? So it's because one of the reason people use the active RFID is they wanna get more information. Sometimes yeah, of course, the extended range is one thing, but oftentimes they pay so much on the active RFID technology. They want to integrate more information in, right? So sensing has become a big thing, right? So it's, and still, in the sensor world, a lot of sensor company they try to get into the space and to grow their customers. So I think sensing is a big element we try to promote, we try to integrate into our technology, right? So it's we've been just partnering with all the sensor technology companies out there, as many as possible. So far, I think we have like more than 30 companies we're working with.
Wow, that's a lot. So basically, the idea there is you have an external sensor chip. So you did an announcement with NXP, which are a giant in this space. So I assume you would connect with theirs. So you have a few components, and you just announced, or fairly recently announced, a new product that has a temperature sensor integrated on chip. So that sounds like that's a relatively new thing. So congratulations on that. And where are we in the development of that? Is it out or coming out soon? Or?
Yeah. This we actually received our engineer samples. Is performing really well as expected. The reason we want to integrate this temperature sensing is because again, it's the cost, is the complexity of the design if customer use the external sensors. But we don't intend to do all the sensors. So we are building the platform. We want to partner with the sensing companies, not to take the business away. But the whole reason we want to integrate the temperature sensor is relatively easy, and this is for many tracking applications. The temperature is almost a standard feature they need to integrate into their tracking device label technologies. So it's a very natural thought for us to integrate it in. Yeah.
So you have this Bluetooth tracking device. It can be integrated with sensors. What has your experience been in reality in terms of what's driving the volume? Is it sensing, or is it simply asset location that is driving the volume?
I think what the driving the volume going up is pretty much everything. As I mentioned, temperature sensing is a very key element. Pretty much our tracking company wanted, and the ID identifier is you have to support and the range, right? So people really looking for long range. For this, it's gonna significantly reduce the infrastructure cost, right? So it's
if you have longer range, you need less receivers, and I guess the only downside to that is, if you really want location, it becomes a little more challenging to do it. If you've got I don't know, 200-meter range, you're not going to get 1 meter accuracy in terms of
absolutely
location. So it's a trade-off, isn't it?
It is. So that's the but we've been just working on the new technology like Bluetooth channel sounding, which is there's gonna hopefully we'll introduce to the market very soon, right? So that's there is a new technology keeps bring us the features which can address those challenges, right? So
yes,
we can hopefully achieve much better accuracy to further reduce the cost for this so-called accurate location tracking.
yeah. But I want to go back to this sensing thing because, there's some fascinating sensing applications. You can have accelerometers, you can have chemical sensors for perishable products, for sensing the ripening of products. There's all these things. But, my experience has been people just kind of want to know where their stuff is, and they're pretty interested in the temperature thing. And it's been hard to scale the more complex sensing. And so I'm trying to get an idea from you whether you're seeing any positive movement beyond just where is my asset, and has it been stored at the right temperature? And if so, what are the use cases that are driving that? Because that will be a new chapter, in my opinion, of the high volume IoT market that you're focused on.
Absolutely. I think that this is we're going to see more and more use cases coming based on this our technology, right? So sensing is a big element, but we start from integrating temperature sensor in. But I think this is as the volume goes up, right? So our focused market currently is on the smart label, right? So it's more like a printable battery based smart label, right? So this is our focus right now. I think as this type of label being deployed more and more, and people are gonna ask for more sensor being integrated into this technology, right? Product. So because of physical data is a big thing, as you know, right? It's AI company all want data, right? I think this is the driving force is not necessarily from the bottom, right? It's maybe from the top, right? It's all the application companies, if they want to create this so-called intelligence in the cloud, they have to have enough data, physical data, to be fed into their AI machine, right? So we always see in-play as a carrier of the mining device, whatever that is, right? So could be the temperature, could be the humidity, could be the shock sensor, could be all different type of physical data mining devices. So that happen. It will happen over time.
So we talked about the fact that you're, in my opinion, creating a new category in auto identification, and you've got the benefits of Bluetooth, which is low cost infrastructure, and you've got some of the benefits of RFID. You can have printed batteries and so forth, and so low cost. But how low is low? Can you kind of give us a sense of what the range is? I mean, I could pull stuff off your website and steal your thunder, but cost is it's a sensitive thing, but it's obviously the driver to creating a category and finding a niche. So how much? And obviously, you don't sell the label; you sell the chip, which is just one of the things in the bill of materials. So, but you see what your customers are doing. So I'd be very interested in your, kind of break down this segment that you've enabled and tell us a little bit about what it looks like in terms of the kinds of tags that people are building on your technology, and what the trade-off has been, because clearly there's going to be a different price if I ask you for 1 or 100 versus $500,000. So give us a sense, because I think, for this podcast, we're trying to educate people who want to build solutions, create solutions, and they kind of need to know, well, I need screwdrivers and hammers, and they can do this and this, and this is the trade-off. So let's get into that part of it now.
Yeah, actually, early last year, 2024, we made this press release with one of our ODM partner, right, who made this dollar tag based on our nanobeacon technologies, right? So that's the first time ever there is a dollar.
Yeah, so that's Menu. Is that we've had them on the podcast. It's an amazing Chinese company that they make the beacons that half the industry sells with their own label on, right?
Yeah. So I think
that's a $1 tag, and I went to their website last night, and it's on there. You have to buy 500,000 of them to get the $1 price.
Yeah, I think at least that's demonstrate how low it could be, right? So with
Yes.
in place technologies, right? But we're still trying to work on, to further refine our technology. I think 120, this newly announced technology, the chip, right? So
Your
this
new
is
chip. Yeah.
we hope we can further reduce the BOM, right?
Oh,
So
really?
especially the manufacturing side of the cost, right? So this is a when we talk about cost, it's never just a silicon cost by itself. It's like how we can help
Yeah.
to reduce the surrounding components cost, how we can reduce the manufacturing cost, how we can just help customer to increase the yield. All those matters. That's what we learned from the RFID industry, right? So it's the reason they can go up to like 4.5 billion a year is because 45 billion
Hmm.
a year is because there's simplicity of the technology, right? So
Yeah,
people know how
absolutely.
to use them, how to produce them at scale. So produce the product at scale is always a challenge. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's what we've been working on. We try to refine our technology to make sure this the scale can happen with our technology. It says that then we can just bring our partners in technology. We've been working with many printable battery technology companies, and they all are partners, right? So they all work with us to further refine their technology to better support our technology, right? So I think this is a more like collaborative effort
Yeah, yeah.
to.
So just to get to the answer the price question, to give people a sense of what we got. So obviously for an RFID application, 500,000 is that's, there are people that are ordering billions of those tags. Obviously it's a much lower price point. So that's not an unreasonable, unrealistic volume requirement. But there's another volume requirement that I would say is maybe 10,000. So there's so many examples of where you might want a Bluetooth beacon on 10,000 assets, like in-store displays is like just one example. Having a beacon on those, and that's a real application that I actually want to use your technology for. What is that? What's the ballpark of what that is going to cost, a tag for that kind of volume?
I cannot speak for my customers, right? But I think
Right,
it's
right.
yeah, it's based on our technologies. It should be fairly easy to make anything below $2. That's with a very good margin. I would
Yeah.
say. Yeah, for $1, maybe is the volume requirements there, but hopefully, as the scale happens, right? So if our partners start to produce their beacons at very high volume,
Yeah.
and the cost can be further, reduced.
Yeah, and it's going to vary based on the features that you want and so forth. But that at least I think gives people a sense. And then in terms of what you charge, I mean, you've got the challenge of running a business. You need to make money as well. So I think there was an early Claire Sweenberg RFID Journal interview. She's a great journalist, very experienced. So she will have pressed you. But I think she was talking like 20 cents as a price point for your chip. But I'm assuming that that's like at extremely high volumes. And so you're selling your chips for less. But that leaves quite a lot of money left for the OEM who's building the end product to get margin and cover their cost of goods. I don't know if you want to comment on what I said in terms of the price point. I don't want to put you in a difficult situation, but
No, it is
yeah,
fine. So it's because that's a published number, right? So we've
yeah,
been publishing that number for years. This is we don't have to hide it, right? People know this. Our device is very competitive on cost. But at the same time, I want to add another point on this. We brand it as a no-code Bluetooth, right? So no-code matters, especially given this today's innovation environment, right? So people don't have to write the code at all to generate website to create their apps, right? There is so many no code, tools available for people to innovate.
yeah,
And this we create this physical world no code design platform for anyone, even a student
yeah,
who can create their own ideas based on our technologies. They can easily just sell like thousands or hundreds of their product, right? It's
yeah.
I think this is the idea we want to share with the audience, especially whoever want to have some ideas that they want to try based on Bluetooth technologies. They don't have to understand Bluetooth, it deeply. They don't have to get to the point that they have to understand how the protocol works. No, by using nanobeacon technologies, they can easily, design an IoT device, right, in days,
Yeah.
not even in weeks. Right.
Which impacts the cost, doesn't it? It's the NRE, the non-refundable recoverable engineering. That's it. And do I have to hire a firmware engineer and
Yeah.
so forth? And so you're not only reducing the cost but speeding the time to market. If I can, but how do you? But there's still some decisions that need to be made. You support the different formats. You support iBeacon. You support
Yes.
Eddystone.
Yeah.
How? So I decide I want the Steve Statler beacon company. How am I going to choose what the format is and say I want encryption in there? How do you give me the ability to configure the chip that's potentially going into hundreds of thousands of these things?
Yeah, we have provide the customer a tool, right? So a configuration tool, right? So people can freely download from our website. So through this configuration tool, customer can easily pick the data format, packet format they choose, right? So it could be iBeacon, could be Eddystone, could be their own, right? User-defined format. And we provide the encryption mechanism just in case customer wants more security to their technology or our product they developed, right? So there's all many tools, and by the way, we offer I think many video tutorials, right, on our website or YouTube channel. So it is a lot of this is knowledge can be easily transferred to our customers without reading too many documentations. By watching a few YouTube videos, how to run it. One of my customer telling me as soon as they got their own kit, right, from DigiKey, it only took them 30 minutes to bring the beacon live.
Okay.
Right.
So you've got a configuration tool. It's running on a laptop or a web page. And you decide, I want this to be Eddystone. How do I end up burning that into the chips then?
Yeah, there is we provide a programmer device, right? So you can just download those configuration file through the programmer into our device through the UR interface. That's very straightforward.
So the UR, so there's essentially a socket that you can connect to the pins on the chip.
Yes.
And I can see how I could use that for like R&D, but then I decide I want 100,000 of those. How do I get that configuration burnt into 100,000? I'm not going to be wanting to put the chips in one by one.
Yeah, we have this production tool we offer to our customers, right? So it could be the command line type of tool. They can easily integrate their existing programmer device, or they can write their own based on the API we provided. Yes.
All right. And then if I'm going to make this tag with the printable battery, and you support other power sources, I saw you did an announcement on photovoltaic energy harvesting, which is kind of an interesting combination. But what is the traditional manufacturing process? Because when I looked at your product, it sort of looks like it's going to go on a printed circuit board. But when I see a lot of your most interesting customers, it's actually like a label. So do they use one of these RFID manufacturing machines, a Mullbauer machine to pick and place? Or how do your customers make a label using your chip?
It really depends on what kind of form factor product that they're making, right? So if it's a label, usually, I'm not expertise on the manufacturing side of the thing, but I know our device has been useful. Yeah, they call roll-to-roll machine, right? So they can, they can put the device on the substrate that they have, and just even including the battery, right? So battery is also in that process. So
Okay.
they just make the label just look like RFID, but just a little bit thicker, right? It's compared to the
Okay.
RFID.
So it sounds like they can reuse the manufacturing process that they have for an RFID
Yes.
sticker and use a lot of the same machines to do that, which is how you get the volume at very low cost versus, a bunch of printed circuit boards that are going to be more expensive to manufacture with.
Yeah. I think this cost benefit we present as soon as the volume goes up, right? So we see that happening, right? So that's the reason we refine our design just to make sure our device, next generation device, is more become more friendly with those manufacturing process.
Yeah, manufacturability, it's key, isn't it? It's like how you lay out the connections so that you can, it's because it's not just can it be made on one of these machines, it's can it be made quickly? Because you've got $1 million machine. If I'm only producing 10 devices a minute, I'm amortizing the $1 million machine over a pretty small number. If I can do 1,000 or 10,000, then obviously the price goes down. So yeah, I no doubt you guys have been doing this for what, over 8 years. So I'm sure you're getting better and better at figuring that stuff out. So how simple, part of this is about not just selling your chip for a very competitive price, but minimizing the number of other chips that you need. It seems like for temperature sensing, you've simplified the bill of materials so that your customers that make tags have one less thing to buy, one less thing to manufacture. How many other components are required to create a working tag? You have a crystal, I think, which is like the thing that gives you, it's the conductor. It's kind of the timing that you use to make sure that your signal's calibrated to the right frequency. You've got some kind of power source, which it seems like is either an energy harvesting device or a battery of some kind. Is there anything else in there?
I think most of our current customer design is based on the battery, right? So it's no matter it's coin cell battery or a printable battery. So it's even though we have many energy harvesting partners we work with, right? So they're doing all different type of energy harvesting based designs. Could be solar panel, could be RF based. Is that's what they do, right? So we just support them to make those reference design available to all the worldwide developers. For this components, right? So our latest design, actually we further reduced the required peripheral components into one. We only require one crystal. That's it.
Well, that's it.
It's
Okay.
if customer don't want any other additional feature, if they just want to do a sensing label, right? So they can just populate two devices, our device and a crystal.
Amazing. So that's great. And then I guess the other component here is how efficient the chip is. So I can have a battery, but if I'm like very thirsty for energy, then I need a bigger battery, which increases the cost. So presumably one of the things that you've done is looked at how can I reduce my energy consumption whilst also having the benefit of an active radio. So how much more efficient is your chip versus, I don't know, I don't want to get too specific, but let's say a typical Nordic style chip that might be in a coin cell expensive $10, $30 tag.
Yeah, we have a customer use our technology and they did 25-year, but they claim they support 25-year with their battery, right? So that's for industrial use case.
And that's like a coin cell battery,
That's
32032.
industrial grade battery because there is very few battery company can support 25-year claim, right? So this is a big claim. That has to be industrial grade. That's a isolated battery, but with it really depends on the use case, right? So people want like advertising interval to be like 1 second compared to 1 minute is very different, right? I think our technologies is we have very low power for sleep mode, right? I prefer sleep more
Yeah,
right?
we all like more sleep,
Yeah,
especially if
yeah,
you're in the low
that's the
power
beauty of
game.
the Bluetooth. That's the beauty of the Bluetooth, right? And people
Yeah.
can figure the way to make it apply to all different type of use cases. I would say we are much better than the notable Bluetooth players in terms of the sleep mode, right? In terms of power consumption, right? That's the reason our technology has been used adopted by so many customers today, right? So they can easily do this 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 8 year, 10-year application without worry about the power, right? Even though it's based on a coin cell.
Yeah.
So we have customer use very small coin cell, they can do 6 years today.
Interesting. And typically, what do you find that duty cycle is, the interval? Because you ask most people, how often do you want this broadcast? And everyone says, oh, once a second. But really, they don't need once a second, do they? What do you find that people actually need? How often do these things need to broadcast? It's very application dependent, but I'm thinking about, let's say you're tracking pallets in a warehouse or something like that. And typically, is it like once a minute, or what are people doing?
I think it varies, right? So we heard some people want like 5 seconds, some people want like once every 5 minutes, right? So the reason I asked them why you want 5 minutes, because there's too many. Think about if you monitor like 10,000 assets in a warehouse, you don't want 10,000 beacons, just being emitted
Yeah.
every second, right? So they're gonna pollute the spectrum, so this spectrum pollution is an issue, right? So it's become an issue for 2.4 gigahertz devices. So they tend to, reduce increase the interval. I mean, so it's not.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also it's a cost in terms of processing. You're somewhere you've got to listen for those packets and process them. And so
Yeah.
that means you're having to, the faster the volume, then the more processing power you need somewhere to deal with that.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting. And our technology, we have a mode we call trigger mode, right? So we can broadcasting multiple beacons, right? So we can have like a regular beacon just transmit once every minute. But as soon as some certain sensor event comes in, let's say temperature goes high or low or go beyond certain threshold, we can trigger the device to send a faster beacon as a second like alert
Ah,
beacon in a a faster interval, right? So let's say
yes.
once every second, and to
Yeah,
send
yeah.
alert. So that
Yeah.
is we provide, even though our device is a no code Bluetooth, but we provide a lot of flexibility into our design
Yeah.
to tailor to all different use cases.
Yeah. So for instance, if you're tagging pallets and if you have an accelerometer chip on there, you see that this thing's moving, and suddenly you can say, okay, I'm going to go from once every 5 minutes to once a second, so you can actually see this thing moving around in real time. That's very cool. And I've seen real use cases where people want to do that. So this is not just a feature that is there for the data sheet. So yeah, so very interesting. I want to talk about encryption, and I have to say I am a real prospect for your product. There's a project that I have in mind for my company, AmbAI, and we're very interested in deploying beacons broadly, so that an AI application can know where it is. So let's say in a restaurant, you have one on every table. So you have whatever it is, 20 tables in a restaurant, and maybe you're part of a big chain where there may be thousands of these things. So the numbers start to add up pretty quickly. But we see this as an asset, and I want to protect that asset. And I don't want some other competitor coming and writing their application that's going to use, if I use iBeacon as an example, then someone can write an application and kick us out. And so I want to be able to encrypt the beacon. And what's available for a customer like me in that case? I'm assuming that you're not doing public key exchange and over the air, that you're kind of provisioning keys and rotating, so kind of basic security, which from my perspective is more than adequate. Am I right in guessing that you're not listening for keys and involving complex key exchanges? You're just burning the keys on there. And what sort of protocols are there available that support what I want to do? Because I've been looking, and since the demise of Eddystone Ephemeral ID, which was over-engineered and kind of a bit of a nightmare, but to deal with.
Yeah.
But there isn't really a standard out there for encrypted Bluetooth beacons that I can see.
Yeah, security has been from day one. We thought about it very, very carefully, right? So because we know the asset tracking is a sensitive topic. It's really, especially for the enterprise use case, and you don't want your asset being monitored by unauthorized users. Right, so this is from day one. We brainstorming what's the best way, because our device is the TX only device. So there is a limitation, right? So you cannot just do the key exchange in any way form. So we have to be creative enough to solve this problem, right? So it's there is. We did a lot of research. We know there is we end up just take one security method actually endorsed by Google team, right? So it's invented by Google, and they call it AES
128.
Yeah, AES 128 is for encryption, but it's more
Yeah.
like authentication, right? You need to authenticate the device is yours, right? So it's, you need to have basically you can program the key into the device, and as long as the receiver has the same key, they can decrypt the key correctly. Right.
Okay.
So that's how we manage this security issue. Yeah.
And so I could decide I want the AmbAI key, and that key would be unique to my organization, or is it a shared key that I have to share with other customers?
This is going to be the shared key, right? So it's, but it's going to be managed by whoever provides those applications to customers.
Okay.
Because of both sides, transmitter side and receiver side, they need to share the same key. But it's just gonna do
I'm just thinking about if so I have my key that I use for my encryption. I use this standard that Google endorses, but let's say my competitor is also using your product. Would they be using the same key as me on that tag, or would we have a different key? I don't know if that question makes sense.
I think you have to create their own key, right? So it's
for different so every customer can have their own key, and that's kind of burnt in and configured, it sounds like.
Actually, we recommend each device have a different key, right?
So okay.
Yeah.
Even better. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's even better. So if someone finds out the key for my tags that are at Starbucks, then the Pete's Coffee guys are fine. It doesn't matter. So, okay. All right. We're getting in the weeds here, but my take on this is this is not payments technology grade security, but it's good enough for location technology. It's good enough for privacy, which is another reason why you might want to do this encryption if you've got tags on things that are going into the customer, into consumers' environments and so forth. So that's good. You've got a good price. So how are things going? You've been, you've definitely lasted longer than most startups have. And you're doing something that's very difficult. Where are you seeing the momentum? Where's the gold buried?
I think we're lucky enough to receive so much support from partners and customers, and they've been just hoping we can survive longer and become a successful company, right? So it's I really appreciate, and I think so far we're doing pretty well, right? So it's given this number of customers worldwide, we'll have a couple hundred customers, right? So it's but as I said, the big upside will be in the smart label business, right? So it's, we have many smart label manufacturer partners right now. They all have all different type of in terms of the stage. Some of them are already in the deployment stage, some in the POC, but they all have a very, very ambitious plan, I would say. right? So that's give us a confidence, right? I think we're gonna do well. But again, I think partnership matters. We really want to keeping strengthening our partnership program. So we've been working with all the sensor companies worldwide. Sensors Converge Show is the show, de facto show. We go there every year. The
All
reason
right.
we're going to be there is that we want to make friends and be partnered with all those companies whoever participate the show, right? So it's sensing is a big element, and at the same time we want to create this all different type of reference design to ease developers life to quickly make their dream become true. So we eventually we want to make this IoT a truly no code IoT platform, right? For all the developers.
And just in terms of your company, so are you venture backed or did you bootstrap it?
Yeah, we're venture backed. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Very good. So I do want to go back to where are you seeing the momentum? What are the use cases that you're finding are driving the volume for you?
Application wise, as I said, the smart label going to be the for us business wise top priority, right? So because we see so much interest from that sector, but what are sensors, the just generic IoT devices, that's another sector. And even automotive, medical wearable is one of example, right? So we have many customers doing the wearable, device. They simply just want to transmit the information out through Bluetooth.
Yes.
So that's another form, type of application. So it's very interesting. Our device is even being sold to the barbecue, right? So thermometer devices.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
because our devices can, support up to like 125 degrees C, right? So it's really highly reliable devices, especially if you know that wireless technologies is very sensitive to the operating temperatures. So
Yeah.
in order to still perform at that high temperature is not easy. It's a very, very challenging task. So our device is being proven pretty much, across the whole temperature range.
Yeah. So you see customers as people that are either making like a barbecue appliance or a smart label, but do you have a sense of, and the smart label is kind of the thing that's driving the most volume, which makes sense. Do you have a sense of what those smart labels are being used for? Where is the sweet spot for your customer's customer, if you like? Or do you not get to see that?
I think logistic is one of the biggest one, right? So it's
Yeah.
and the cold chain monitoring. That's
Yeah.
often I heard a lot from my customers. So that's the reason, they think the temperature sensing capabilities really matters. But unfortunately, just the cost pressures there very high for them to
Yeah.
really convince their customer of using Bluetooth, right? So it's I think with our new generation device, which is IN120, as long as we introduce this technology to the market, we will solve the cost aspect of the concern. We had to rely on our partners, right, manufacturer partner, to produce this label at scale at the very, very affordable cost. Hopefully can enable this cold chain monitoring,
Yeah.
years.
And then cold chain, double clicking on that, are you seeing this for food or for medicine or for both? Is that?
Yeah, it is for, I heard a lot about the food and the groceries, and the pharmaceutical is another one, right? So even for automotive, right? The parts, right? So there's some parts that are very sensitive to the temperature, and so they need to monitor the temperature before
Okay.
to make sure the parts is stored in the proper environment before they being deployed. Yeah.
And I just want to finish off by like characterizing this segment, and I think you've done a very good job. But it's sort of, so you've got kind of the lower cost tags, which includes an RFID tag that might be 5 cents, or the Wiliot tag, which is Bluetooth, which would be a little more. But those things require infrastructure, at least at the moment. You don't have RFID in phones, and Bluetooth infrastructure is cheaper than RFID, but it's still It's still something. And so it seems like your product fits just north of that, where you can put your product on, say, a merchandising display where there's really no infrastructure. You're just relying on someone having a mobile phone with Bluetooth turned on, which is pretty much everyone, and an app on that phone. So you don't need a bridge or a gateway in there. Obviously, you're paying more, but it's kind of a trade-off. So I see that, and then clearly above you, you have these sensors that are $5, $10, $20, $100. So you're like, and I think what you're doing is really important in that, and I think it's easy for the people above you or below you to see you as competition, but I don't see it that way. I see, like, if we can fill in all of these boxes, then it's all boats rise. Ultimately, we're creating a broad IoT category, and this vision of I don't care whether it's $1 or $2 or $4, that's still an amazing price point for something that can give you, an active radio in every sense of the word.
Absolutely. Yeah, I never see competition as a bad thing. I really hope more and more Bluetooth company can join the game, right? So it's I think the market size is too big, right? So I often joke with my customers. I'm so worried about no one is copying us, right? So if that's the case, we may pick the wrong path, right? So no one even willing to copy us. So,
Yeah, we're not going to bother. It's not worth it.
yeah, it's not worth it, right? So maybe this is not right market. No one look at it, right? So but we do see this is as long as the market is start to grow significantly, we want to, yeah, there will be more players for sure, but that will only help the industry to accelerate. So acceleration of this is the market going to be good for everyone, hopefully, and for us to be. I always say it's always a customer's call, right? Customer's decision to choose which technology company they eventually going to use. If we cannot, lead the market, in terms of technology, timing, cost, if we lose, that's we deserve to lose, right? So if we don't want to lose, we better innovate every day to make sure we keep at the edge of the innovation. That's the only way you can create that loyalty from your customers.
Well, very good. And I should, shameless promotion. One of our sponsors is Identiv. I think they're one of your customers that you.
Yes.
So this podcast is sponsored by Identiv. So I think it's cool that you're participating. And but you have many other customers, competitors of Identiv, who are all doing something slightly different in this area. So Jason, I am very interested in how you ended up leading in-play, and I think your story starts in China, right?
Yeah.
You studied electronics. So,
Yes. That's just I can definitely make some intro about my background, right? So it's actually I major in the double E, right? So electronic engineering when I was in college in China. But after graduation, I went to the semiconductor industry, right? So it's mostly in the cell phone, right? So it's a cell phone business. If you remember, it's during the time year 2000, right? So between 2000 and 2006, that's when the cell phone business start happening in China, right? So a lot of manufacturer ODM, so they start to do the assembly first, and they gradually get into the design part of the business, and that's when I was very lucky enough to get into that industry and start to promote the technologies, right? Over time, right, is I gained pretty, I would say, the reputation wise and the revenue. I made like $100 million for my previous boss.
yeah, so he was very rich.
It was very rich for sure,
Yeah.
But it's I was pretty proud of it, and because of at least my previous company offered me the platform for me to grow my skills and create the a business for them. But after I think in year 2006, my family immigrated to Canada. Right?
Oh,
It's yeah, that's a big life change for me, right? So it's almost like you have to start from zero again, right? So this is
yeah.
completely for as an immigrant is I know very little, right? So it's
Hmm.
I speak like a very awkward English, Chinglish. People call it Chinglish. Barely people understand me, right? So it's but I managed to learn.
So you decided to go to retail where you'd have to really put a lot of pressure on your communication skills.
Exactly, right? So it's I was lucky, right? So when I got the interview from the Spice Buy in Canada, they call Future Shop, was later acquired by Best Buy, right? So it's the Future Shop store manager interviewed me, say, "Hey, what do you know about this retail?" I don't know anything about the retail, but I know who built their TV on the shelf. I know the every single components on the PCB board. I know the suppliers. I know how to explain those technologies. It's okay.
Impressive.
I got hired on spot, right? Says, "Oh, come to work next day." So that was fun experience, but it's a very short, yeah, work experience though, right? So I worked there for a little bit like less than a year, right? So it's
Uh-huh.
yeah, and before I got a job here, a professional job, I would say, a semiconductor company, a startup here in Southern California. That's how, I finally came back to the profession, right? It's a semiconductor business, and that was
So, but
like
that's a big jump. You just left China, you went to Canada, you're kind of acclimatizing with your family, and then you go to yet another different country. I mean, it's similar but different. That must have been quite a thing.
I've been trying to find the professional job in Canada, but it is first of all, there's very few semiconductor companies out there, and the customers is mostly is in Asia, in US, in Europe, but not many companies. The market is not there, right? So that's but I was young, right? So it's that when you in the years of 30s, you don't want to just give up your career that early. Yeah, Canada is a great country. I love it, and the scene is
Me too.
beautiful. I was living in Vancouver, the best vacation place, I would say.
It's amazing. They know how to make a good cup of tea, which they still don't understand in America. Is There's many wonderful things about it, but tea is not there. I don't know how you feel about. Obviously, the Chinese have a different take on tea, but I don't know whether you agree with that
It,
assessment.
it's not only the tea, right? So I feel like the food there is amazing, right? So there's
Yeah,
Canada has a lot of amazing food. You can try all different type of variants from all different type of countries, and
yeah.
they just very very good. Yeah, but that's the experience. Yeah, a good part of the life experience. I enjoy some of the break, but while working and the pressure to practice my broken English,
Yeah.
right? It's but yeah, I was lucky enough to got a job here in the Southern California, right? So it's I work for a wireless SoC company. Called Newport Media, right? So it's, they developed this very advanced wireless technology to make a TV streaming possible through this broadcasting technology, though, right? So
Ah,
for the cell phone, because I was hired because of cell phone background, right? So it's I
yeah.
have a lot of smartphone feature from then, right? So there was not even smartphone back then, right? So it's, people use a feature phone, and there is no LTE, there is no 4G. It's like a 2G, 2.5G, 3G kind of cellular technologies. You barely can browse the internet with that data rate, right? So not to mention, how can you just watch a video on top of it, right? So it's, that's the reason, this the company called Newport Media, they come up with a very cool technology. You can just streaming the audio, not streaming. It's a lot more like receive the broadcasting audio and video from the TV station. And that was super cool. And I signed up on that job, and I was in charge of the, in China, right? So how to promote their technology to China-based customers. So
Oh,
that
okay.
was, yeah,
So American company going back to China. So clearly you were very qualified for that. Yeah.
yeah, Yeah, because of the most of the cell phone feature phone manufacturers are in China, right? So unless you sell
Yeah.
to Apple, Samsung, and yeah, we did have some business with Samsung as well back then, right? So but the majority of the market is still in China, right? So that's I was hired to just uh, become this technology messenger, right? So try to
Yeah.
sell their technologies into China. That was yeah. Also, it's a very very successful business, right? So we pretty much occupy. I would say take a majority of the market share in the TV space, right? So TV broadcasting space on the phone. It's a TV on the go. Like it's very cool, but the thing is, cellular technology is evolving also, right? So very, very quickly, right? So people can start to see the streaming audio, browse YouTube through the cellular technologies, right?
Yeah.
And that's become a big threat to the broadcasting technologies over time. Just the cellular, of course, take place of that. And but before then, the Newport Media was sold to a much bigger semiconductor company. It's ADMIL, right? So we've been just
Okay. So you changed companies without quitting and
yeah, yeah.
okay, I see.
Yeah, it's yeah, but my personality wise, I never I've been just enjoying working for a startup because of the work pace,
Yeah.
the excitement is there. Right? So it's I enjoy working under pressure, and they just like when you go to the gym, you need to exercise your muscle, you need to torture them before you grow, right? Your muscle,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
same thing. Yeah, it's that's how of course, Admiral was later acquired by Microchip. That's back in 2016. We just came out. We start our own journey. Yeah,
So okay, so what was it that I mean, going from doing field marketing to being CEO and starting a new company, that's a big step. You'd worked in small companies before, you'd seen what success looks like, but what was the inspiration for starting In Play? Did you know what it was going to be, or did you start it and then pivot?
it's always it's unknown, but you always feel like right? So it's,
Yeah,
that's that. If you know, it's what you don't know, you're never gonna start it, right? So it's always as a sales marketing person, right? I've been just doing business successfully, right? So for the past many years, and it just the confidence level is just keeps going higher, and they just see
yeah,
less the risk because they never do your job, in a CEO role, right? So until of course, after you became CEO, you suddenly realize this is a very different job than sales marketing, right? So there's
yeah,
a lot more roles you need to take on, right? So in order
yeah.
to just make it happen. But it's back to why we started business. It's just back in 2014 there is like virtual reality gaming became a thing, right? So it's a company called Oculus was acquired by Facebook.
Hmm.
It's I thought today, right? So it's that's became very big news, industry news. And people just talking about the virtual reality gaming going to be the next computation platform. That's when we actually back in Admil we have this Bluetooth technology, Wi-Fi technology, and the Zigbee, right? So I was the marketing, I was taking the marketing role to promote the technology to the customers, and the virtual reality is a big sector, right? So we visit the customers, so you understand there is a lot of problem going on with wireless communication just for that space. No one is using a standardized the protocol to do their communication because of the latency. There
Mm,
is a latency issue. There is a over ODR creation, right? So if it's not like inside the network, all the nodes they're not synchronized nicely in the way customer want. So that's
mm,
gonna create a bad experience, especially for the VR type of application. keeps talking about 10 millisecond, 20 millisecond. This is the tolerance, right? So you cannot go beyond that in terms of the latency, communication latency. So no industry standard can address that kind of challenge, and that's how we, I thought this is never gonna be solvable, right? Problem, but until now it's my co-founder, my CTO, right? So it's he found out the solution, right? So yeah, that we think, probably we need to create our own company to address this, market.
Okay. So when you started the company, it was you were thinking about your what's the IN618 small product? That was kind of was at the front of your mind. So this is not the nano beacon that is really the thing that. Okay. Very good.
That's the reason we name ourselves In Play, right? It's like gaming company name, right?
I see.
Yeah,
It makes sense. Very good. Well, that is one of the reasons I do this podcast is just wanting to meet the people that started these iconic companies. And I think you've made a real dent in the industry and carved out, created a little segment that was nascent. It really didn't exist before. So congratulations on that. We're going to wrap up. I'm going to ask you the most difficult question that I ask my guests, which is name 3 songs that have meaning for you and tell us why. And you only just heard out about this, so we're going to give you some latitude here. But can you think of some songs that have meaning to you?
One song pop up my head right away is it's a Chinese song, by the way.
Great.
Tianmimi is like what's the English word for that? It should be sweet as honey. Right? It's like it's very toothy kind of feeling song. It's a slow, right? So, but it's give you whenever I hear the song, it give me a peaceful feeling, right? So that's what I need, right? It's sometimes is especially when you in the pressure, under the pressure, you really wanna just hear some like songs to help you get into the peaceful state as soon as possible, right? So it's not always like up and down like a roller coaster.
Yeah. And I love it when people, because we have a lot of CEOs from different countries and they tend to like come up with a Queen song or David Bowie, which I love. But I love even more the kind of something from your background. So is this song, how old is this song?
I think it's 40 years old.
Okay.
It's really, really old song, right? So
okay.
But this is super popular, right? So it's pretty much everyone can sing it, right?
Really?
China, right? So this is so popular. It's just like doesn't matter you are like a 10-year-old or like 80 years old, you all hear about it, right? So it's most of people.
Okay. And when would people sing it? Would they sing it like in a karaoke bar, or is China a singing culture? Do you get together and sing, or?
Karaoke, this is a very popular thing in Asia, right? It's but it's even home, right? It's I don't know. I truly don't know what people's favorite, but in general, this is song I want to hear, right? So it doesn't mean I want to sing it, but it's whenever you hear it, you feel comfortable.
Okay.
It's more like kind of song is I see it as a medication, right? It's
Well, we'll get the pointer to it on YouTube so that other people can benefit from that medication as well. But this has been fascinating, getting to know you a little better. I am again full of admiration for what you've done. It's difficult, but I think you've got some really great things ahead of you. As there's more and more emphasis on supply chain visibility, waste reduction, better compliance, better visibility. So I'm really looking forward to staying in touch and seeing you guys grow.
Thank you so much for offering me and our company this platform to talk to your audience, directly. Right, so I really appreciate it. Thank you.
So that was my conversation with Jason, who I think has a really interesting personal story as well as a really interesting company. So my record for the episode, the music I've been listening to is Supertramp, and Breakfast in America is their iconic album. I started listening to this because one of their two lead singers, Rick Davies, died, sadly. I mean, he was in his 80s, but he had been fading. But Supertramp are just an amazing group. I think maybe a little underestimated. Very Beatles influenced, but also influenced by Pink Floyd and by Genesis. They were at their peak in the 70s. Breakfast in America sold over 20 million albums, which is staggering. No album released now would get anything like that. But what I've found is you get pulled in by Supertramp's Breakfast in America because it had Logical Song, Goodbye Stranger, Take the Long Way Home, which were all huge hits in their own right. But then their other albums are pretty awesome as well. The first two didn't do so well. We won't talk about them, but Crime of the Century, Crisis, What Crisis, and even in the quietest moments are definitely worth a listen. So they're kind of an interesting group because they were incubated outside of America. They're actually a British group, but they weren't incubated in England. They were actually incubated by a Dutch industrialist who sponsored them and bankrolled their first 3 albums, 2 of which, as I say, didn't do well. And then they hit it out of the park with Crime of the Century. So I recommend it. Do enjoy it. That's it for the show. Thanks very much for listening. Thanks to Aaron Hammock for editing it. Be well, enjoy the journey, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching this episode of the Mr. Beacon Ambient IoT podcast. You can also listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please like and share this video and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss further episodes. For more information about Bleakon, head over to bleakon.net. For more information about Identiv, go to identiv.com. And for more information about AmbAI, go to ambai.ai.